I say lovely afternoon there and welcome to another episode of Standpoint. I'm Ayodele Uzubakun. The 2019 election is inching closer and it's 181 days, just note that, to the 2019 presidential election scheduled for February the 16th, 2019. And the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, is making every necessary preparation for the poll. The Commission recently registered 23 new political parties, bringing the number of political parties that will contest the 2019 election to 91. I have in the studio a former Deputy High Commissioner of the United Kingdom and an aspirant of Lagos East Senatorial District. That's Ambassador Oluwatoyin Kayode. You wanted to correct it? You're welcome to Standpoint.
Yeah. Actually, thank you very much for having me. The correction is very simple. Ambassador Oluwatoyin Kayode Lawal, the former Deputy High Commissioner of Nigeria to the United Kingdom.
Okay. Let's have that. Now, since INEC disclosed that Nigeria has now 91 political parties, divergent reactions have been pouring in. The question some Nigerians have been asking is, do we need as many as 91 political parties? They just registered 22 last week, Ambassador.
Well, in actual fact, it is their constitutional right, to be registered when you form an association, a political association, and it is deemed fit enough to be registered by the institution that is in charge, that is INEC. You just said that INEC, looked through their papers and, thought it fit to come out and say that we have registered these associations as political parties. But for me, if you're asking for my opinion as to whether we need up to 91 political parties, I would say we do not need as many as 91 political parties, though we are a large nation and we're a diverse nation with multiple ethnic groups and so on and so forth. But all the same, there is a way that this could have been pruned down in such a manner that at the end of the day, we have a manageable number, because these, 91 political parties brings in, it makes it cluttered. The arrangement is cluttered in such a way, and it brings a lot of confusion, to the masses, because looking at the form, you want to register, you are like confused, but I don't know what INEC has in stock for us. We are waiting and watching.
Ambassador, let me ask you, you've had to serve in some countries outside Nigeria.
Absolutely.
And at a point in time, you were in the United Kingdom. What is obtained in other climes like Nigeria in terms of the number of political parties and how?
Yeah, that is in tandem with what I've just said. If you're looking at the United Kingdom, you have a manageable number of parties. Just like the United States, for example, you have the Republican and the Democrat. Basically, there are some, not so visible parties, but they are parties, at the end of the day. In the United Kingdom, you also have the Conservatives, you have Labour, you have the Liberals, and you have a few other parties, for Northern Ireland and some other places, Wales and so on. But it's still within, manageable, level. For example, we toyed, an administration toyed with the idea of these two political parties in the past.
Yeah.
Whether
the days of SDP and NRC.
Absolutely. So I'm thinking that, perhaps it is too late now, because 2019 is already, we are at the threshold of 2019. And to that extent, I think what we can only do is to, at least further project and, hear our views and let the INEC know that there is need to see what we can do to make the number of parties so manageable to the extent that the people will not be confused. And there is no risk of disenfranchising anybody.
Now, looking at what we call voter education here,
Yeah.
INEC will be saddled with the responsibility of printing ballot papers.
That will be as long as this.
And a lot of people that are not too literate,
Yeah.
they might end up having so many invalid votes or voting for the people they don't even intend to vote for. So what could be done between now and February?
That's why I'm saying that, you know, if you want to be very practical about it, we'll say that it is rather late now because we are already at the threshold of 2019 to tell a political party that has been registered to be deregistered is a different thing entirely. It will arouse a lot of problems. So to that extent, we can just, well, all we are doing now is just telling them for the future, not for this 2019 election, you know, as far as I'm concerned, except that maybe if INEC can come up with, you know, a solution that would be, you know, that would appeal to every one of us, you know. But for now, you know, the way I say it, it is rather belated.
Let's talk about political maturity now in terms of, you hardly see it that, in the United Kingdom or United States, that, somebody moving from being a Republican to Democrat, as is not a regular occurrence, or somebody moving from the Labour Party to the Conservative Party because of their ideology and philosophy differ. But how do you make of what is happening in Nigeria? It's so convenient for somebody from PDP to end up in APC today and tomorrow is back to the People's Democratic Party.
Yeah, that actually, you know, there's nothing intrinsically wrong with, you know, party switching. You know, they call it party switching in the United States or in the UK or, you know, in other climes. But here in Nigeria, we call it defection. You know, you're talking about defection. There's nothing really wrong about it, but we should look further as to what is responsible for the defection. Although, I'll be very frank with you, since I'm on here, that our politics has been characterized by what I call a theater of the absurd. And these defections you are seeing is part of the absurdities that we've had to contend with as a nation for quite a long time.
So, in other words, there might not be a strong ideological basis, you know, that is holding these political parties, because the people that used to be in UPN, we know that the difference between UPN and MPN in those days, the philosophy behind it.
The only thing that I'll tell you, I will not, you know, come up with a wholesale condemnation of defection. You know, what will matter to me a great deal is the reason for the defection. For example, you can see some people in their attempt to disorganize the APC, they decided, you know, to move to the PDP, you know, just to bring out their hidden agenda of making the country ungovernable for the ruling party. And as it is imperative for the APC in such a situation to also try as much as possible, you know, to ensure that other people also move to APC. You know, what you will find out there, of course, is there are genuine, you know, defectors. You know, permit me to use that word, because defection can be a function of ethical consideration, moral consideration, and selfish greed. You know, selfishness and greed. You know, so we have to look beyond the defection, just wholesale. We have to look at what actually prompted, you know, people defecting from one party to another. But there's a situation where you are APC in the morning, you know, and then in the afternoon you are PDP or any of these newfangled, political parties, it becomes very ridiculous. And what I have found out as an individual, as a former diplomat, is that, we have a lot of theatricians in politics. These people, they lack depth, they don't know what they are doing, and they think by just jumping ship, from one party to another, they are actually doing the nation a world of good. And my own surmise is that they're actually helping themselves. Our politics, unfortunately, is largely characterized by individuality, individualism. People just look for what they're going to gain for themselves, rather than, having the interest of the nation at heart. That is perhaps what has prompted an individual like myself, a technocrat, who has been in government for upwards of 30-something years. I haven't retired. I looked at myself. I said, the time has come for those of us who normally stay at the back, condemning, the propriety or otherwise, or what is being done in government, to come forward and let people know that we also have one or two things that we can contribute to the development of our nation.
Ambassador, let's quickly take this breather. When we come back, we'll talk more on your experience. It's still Standpoint, reaching you live from Television Continental here. I'll take this break. When we come back, we'll talk again. Welcome back. It's still Standpoint. We're counting down to the 2019 election here. And Ambassador, I want you to tell me what you've done before now, before you decided that it's time to come home and you want to throw your hat into the ring.
Yeah, actually, when I left the University of Lagos in 1981, after my youth service, I joined the Nigerian Foreign Service, known as the Ministry of External Affairs, as at that time. So I had to go through the grinding mill of the Foreign Service, what we call the Foreign Service Academy, in preparation for my representational duties abroad. So I've had the privilege, to represent Nigeria in various capacities, particularly abroad in several countries. For example, I started with Cameroon. I was in Cameroon, as a young officer, And after Cameroon, I was posted to Iran, and I served in Turkey, Syria, some of them on concurrent accreditation. Eventually, I became Nigeria's Consul General to Saudi Arabia, and later I ended up as the Deputy High Commissioner of Nigeria to the United Kingdom. It was after all this, after this privilege of learning from the best minds, in the ministry that we refer to as the elite corps of the public service, that I now decided, after my retirement, that I haven't taken in so much. I haven't been privileged to represent Nigeria. Nigeria has provided me with a platform. This platform, incredible platform of exposure. And I at least managed to acquit myself very well. And I haven't done so. I said, I retired. I'm still, like they say in common parlance in Nigeria,
retired,
but not tired. So I look at myself, I said, I still have, my modest contribution that I can make to the development of our nation. That is why I decided, in spite of the murkiness that you were referring to of our politics, in spite of some of these peculiarities, some of this uniqueness of our politics, I just decided to pick the gauntlet, to be part of it. And, at the end of the day, one man can start a revolution. You know, it depends on how you do it, because gradually you begin to have converts. If there are things you think are not being done very well, you know, you can straighten things by recruiting some people and, you know, telling them this is the best way to go. For me, this exposure, you know, is one of the things, you know, that have actually triggered my interest. And then I'll talk about this one later on, my passion, you know, to ensure that we are all human beings. You know, human beings are like parts of the body, you know, created from the same essence. If one part is sick, you know, other parts cannot remain at peace. I look at those boys you see on the street. You know, you see them twirling, you know, this and that. I'm not happy. But you see, they are my people. When I see them, I call them Enyitemi, my own. You know why? I have, you know, a very, very humble background, you know. In fact, it remains, you know, a mystery to me that I'm where I am today, in spite of everything, because I lost my father at the age of 3 months. And, you know, I'm the only child of my parents. I lost my mother at 18 years when I was preparing for my school certificate exam. So you can imagine I've been on the street too. For example, as if history, by twisting the lottery of fate, as if nature itself was listening and preparing me for what, you know, what I'm aspiring for today. I've lived in all the local government areas that constitute the Lagos East Senatorial District, you know, because in my struggle against all the elements of poverty, deprivation, debilitating, you know, problems, you know, I've had to sleep in my friend's place. In fact, I've had to sleep in my wife's parents' place. You know, when I was in the university, it was that bad. It was that challenging, you know. So I look at myself that in spite of everything, you know, I chose the path of education. That's the difference, perhaps. And, you know, with a lot of vim, with a lot of vigor, you know, I managed to come out, you know, as who I am today.
Talking about trying to create a kind of paradigm shift, as you said
Absolutely.
earlier.
Yeah.
Now, there's a phenomenon that is mind-boggling, and, you know, this votes for cash,
Yeah.
you know, is a raging trend in election malpractice in Nigeria now.
Yeah.
It was prevalent in the Ekiti State governorship election, where electorates reportedly exchanged their votes for money and food items. Now, politicians and their parties are jumping to buy votes and stomach infrastructure bandwagon. And it seems the blueprint for the 2019 election has been drawn. How can we check this worrisome trend?
You know, election, you know, rigging or vote buying, whatever you call it, is reprehensible. You know, it is reprehensible. Wherever it exists, we should do something about it. And one good thing, you know, is that for everything that you want to check in any society, there are laws, you know, to checkmate all these things. But maybe in the area of enforcement, there may be, you know, some challenges here and there, you know. But at the same time, that does not mean that we don't have laws, you know, to check some of these things, you know. But election problems like vote buying is reprehensible. I'm not, you know, I'm not for, you know, vote buying. There is nothing good in that, because it's, when you look at it,
ultimately, when you're canvassing for votes and you see people, they're hungry and they are saying, they're assuring you that we're going to vote for you, maybe in your primary election, we're going to vote for you, but you need to do the needful.
no, but what I've been telling people, you talk of a paradigm shift. You know, in my own way, I do tell them that I'm not here to give you fish, but I want you to learn how to fish, because that is an enduring path to greatness. Because if I continue to give you money, of course, as a former, diplomat, you know that I don't have that in abundance, but I have, with all due respect, I have some ideas that can be useful, to all these individuals out there, by way of trying to figure out, whatever empowerment that we can do to ensure that these people, are brought, out from all these things that we condemn about them and get them gainfully employed. By developing some skill sets, we ensure that we do things like that to tell them that, we can actually help them to be better human beings and more useful to the Nigerian society.
In terms of representation, how do you intend to, your constituency, how do you intend to impact on the people you are representing in the National Assembly?
Largely, the position of a senator, a legislator, has a primary responsibility of legislating, bills, sponsoring bills, bills that will redound, to the development of the nation. Particularly, you also have to look at your own constituency. For example, in Lagos, we have three senatorial districts. We have the West, we have the Central, and we have the East. So for me,
Ambassador, let me quickly take this caller. Ojo is calling us from Oyo State. Many thanks for joining us, Ojo.
Yes, you're welcome, sir.
Yeah, go ahead with your contribution, please.
No, I just want to contribute my own viewpoint as vote buying.
Okay, go ahead, please.
Vote buying, we should do everything humanly possible to make sure we do away with it, so that our electoral value will continue to be reckoned with. Buying vote does not do us any good. That is my own contribution. Thank you.
Thank you for your contribution, Ojo. And in reacting to Ojo's contribution, Ambassador, looking at what will make people to collect money before they vote, we're talking about poverty.
Absolutely.
We're talking about unemployment here and there.
Exactly.
People that have been deprived.
Yeah.
So on election day, if you bring rice to them, you bring 1,000 naira to them, they will play ball.
Yeah.
So don't you think fundamentally, before we address vote buying on election day, we should first of all tackle the widespread poverty?
You'll give one thing to this administration. The administration of President Muhammadu Buhari is making a lot of difference. If we want to be fair to the man at the helm of affairs today, that is the president, is doing a world of good to this country. I'm very passionate about the man because, let me tell you, he came on board on 3 programs. He spoke about corruption, he spoke about security, and he spoke about the economy, right? If you look at all 3, he's been trying as much as possible to ensure that whatever problems we have there are at least reduced to the barest minimum. There are challenges because government is a continuum. It's not something, no government can come in and have a fix-all, pattern. It doesn't work that way. So I think the president is on a path that we should commend, in terms of reduction of corruption, because that is why I said at the very initial, from the get-go, that we have been battered, in this country. We have been left for too long in the theater of the absurd. And that is why we want to move away from this reprehensible theater.
Another controversial issue as regards the 2019 election is the budgets for the poll. Now, the INEC is requesting for a sum of 189.2 billion naira to prosecute the election. That is an increase of 69.2 billion naira when compared to the 120 billion naira the commission spent in 2015 general election. INEC national chairman, that's Mahmoud Yakub, says the increase is as a result of increase in the number of political parties. That's what we said earlier. Registered political parties and high cost of logistics,
Absolutely.
exchange issues, that's foreign exchange, among others. But some Nigerians say the budget is outrageous and just another means of, wasteful spending and corruption. What's your line of thoughts to this?
I won't say that, because INEC is an institution set up by the federal government for a purpose, and an institution is supposed to be made functional through this budget that they come up with from time to time. No institution of government can function without a budget, and the government appoints responsible individuals in the place who, of necessity, should know their what their responsibilities are. So if INEC comes up with a particular sum, naturally we'll feel the man in the street will look at it and say, what are they doing with this kind of amount? But we have forgotten that the proliferation of political parties itself has placed enormous responsibility on the government. And this is killing, and democracy, like the Asiwaju Ahmed Tinubu will say, it's not served a la carte. It's something that you have to work and, you have to pay for it.
When after conducting the 2015 general election, we knew that we were going to have another election the next 4 years. Why do we like fire brigade approach in Nigeria? Well,
you see, we have a lot of rascalities, with our system. We have a lot of individuals who are not supposed to be where they are. And because of this, we have a lot of individuals who are simply, in politer climes, they won't be where they are. One is a dancer, and he's at the Senate, and everybody. That's that's part of the absurdity that I keep going back to. For example, you imagine somebody who goes to the Senate and they refer to him as a dancing senator, and he's even very, very happy. You see him smiling all over the place at the end of the day, and one will always come up with some theatrics, on Twitter, on every, this is. We are talking of something very serious. We need, that shift. Nigerians should begin to think and to look, do a lot of introspection. Look into these individuals. You come up to us that they want to represent us.
Where are you coming from?
Where are you? Your antecedents. What is your track record? What have you done? Where have you been? What has been your contribution, for example? And if you look at that, it creates, it beats my imagination that some individuals, how they manage to find themselves where they are today. But that's the beauty of democracy, because at the end of the day, the vote of a madman, if he still has the mental capability to know how to vote, and that of any other individual who is sane, is still, it will count for the same thing. 2 votes. Yours is 1, mine is 1. So,
how would the rifts between the National Assembly and the executive impede, the smooth run of things? Especially, INEC is saying people are calling on the National Assembly now to reconvene, and so that INEC budgets will be given speedy passage. How would that impact on the polity?
The leaders of our party, All Progressives Congress, have come out leaving nobody in any doubt that what has played out recently is very shameful.
Ambassador, let me quickly take Tony. Tony is calling us from Oyo State. Thank you for joining us, Tony.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for building the nation through your media.
Thank you, Tony.
Yes. My question goes with INEC. INEC is looking at budget of 180-something billion naira for this coming election. I feel as a nation, if we are restructuring, if the government said that they are doing something about corruption, we should start from that place. The government should look into it. The Senate should look into it. Having plenty, so much parties to be cut down. We don't need more than 3 to 4 or 5 political parties. This will reduce the budget, and we have more money to spend for the masses, the structures and everything. Look at the infrastructure. The country is decaying, and we are still talking about spending so much money to do this, whereby people are just looking for how to loot everywhere. I feel this is my contribution. Looking for another way forward for Nigeria. We still have time. The manager, the ambassador, said there's no time to talk to that. We have time. All they need to do is to come out with a law from the Senate. Bring out the bill, support the bill, and let them cut this thing. Let them go and join other parties.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you, Tony, from Oyo State. We're talking about between the executive and the legislature, the rifts, how it's heating up the polity and might affect the work of INEC.
Yeah, and I did say that the leaders of our party, you know, the national chairman of APC, Comrade Adam Oshomole, and even the national leader of the APC, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, they have all said that normally, you know, what has happened at the National Assembly is very shameful, but to that extent, the Senate president should have thrown in the towel.
You believe so?
Yeah, that is the path of honor. That is the path of honor.
Because he left APC, you should throw in the towel?
Exactly. You know, you cannot have APC with 57 senators while you have 40-something senators and you continue to lead, you know, the majority party. It is not done. It is, you know, it is incomprehensible. For example, it can only happen here, you know. But politics has to go with some dignity, integrity. It weakens the integrity of our democracy, you know, when people behave this way.
So let's quickly take this other break. When we come back, we'll discuss more. Welcome back. It's still Standpoint, and I'm still with Ambassador Lawal here. And before we went on break, we were talking about the rift between the National Assembly and the executive.
Yeah. It's a shame that what has happened in the first place. But I believe in the fullness of time, you know, in the not too distant future, we're going to see, you know, a change. How it's going to happen, I wouldn't know, you know, but I can tell you that at the appropriate time, common sense will prevail. And, you know, Saraki, for example, the Senate President, as of today, will do the needful.
The needful how?
I just told you that in politer climes, you know, this kind of thing would not obtain there because, you know, you cannot say that you have gone to the other party, you know, now you have you are in a minority party. You want to have the Senate President from that same minority party and the Deputy Senate President from the minority party. This is, for example, I find it very, difficult to understand. It's it's one of the imponderables of our politics.
They claim to have left APC because of the division in APC, because of the irreconcilable differences within the ranks of APC.
But I've just told you that you and I know that you have been a guru, you know, on this program. You know what it is, you know. When people tell you, oh, I'm leaving this party because of irreconcilable differences and so on. At the end of the day, if you look further, you know, beyond all the razzmatazz, what you are going to get is the true reason they are leaving, because of their personal interest, which is inimical for the most part to the interest of the nation. That's unfortunate.
Now, moving forward now, when we want to look at the conducts
Yeah.
of our politicians,
Yeah.
the way, nobody is talking about infrastructure, nobody is talking about healthcare. You do a content analysis of our newspaper, the only thing you see there is big battles between politicians, and nobody is staging a debate, telling Nigerians, this is what I want to do. Debate doesn't even influence anything in Nigeria anyway. In other climes, when they have the debate, they will look at the programs, they will look at what they will intend to do in education, healthcare, and some other of their programs. But the yardstick used by an average Nigerian to choose their leaders, I think there's something faulty about it.
I agree, because you'll find out that in this country, a lot of people simply don't, of course you have a responsibility there too, as the media. The media should ensure that people who come forward with the intention to represent the people of this country are actually brought into account. What I'm saying, bringing them to account, this time around, is to interrogate that aspiration, that interest they have, by finding out, in a very scrupulous manner, what the antecedents of these individuals are and where they have been, so that where they are coming from, their track record, until we are able to do that, and we do it so effectively, we are going to be mired, in what we have always, had in this country. Because if, for example, you don't scrutinize these individuals, and again, let me not forget, that is where this poverty eradication comes in. The government, as this administration, to the best of my knowledge, the last time I checked, has been trying to ameliorate the excruciating poverty, that has engulfed this nation for so long. We can do a lot better, but at least the fact is this government is doing something about it. And again, it also goes to the level of corruption in the society, which is one of the cardinal points, this administration is about. Anti-corruption is the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari, whether you like it or not, is working so assiduously to ensure that corruption is totally eradicated, or at least reduced to the barest minimum.
Some people complain that this has been selective.
No, it's not selective. You see, a government is about conflict and conflict resolution, and government is a continuum. When a government comes in, it tries to implement some programs. It may not necessarily, implement these programs to your heart's content, but the fact is the government is working, and we can see some proofs, that this government is on a path, to ensure that this cankerworm that has, virtually taken over our polity. For example, the past administration, everybody was like, wow, the anything goes that, kind of government that we were under for quite some time, that was what triggered, that was what galvanized everybody into coming out to say, no, we wouldn't take this. And that was why the government was changed in the first place. It's not normal, it's not usual that in a country like ours, a government that is an incumbent president, it was defeated because people are now asking questions. They are interrogating some of these things, but we should do more along that line.
Now, talking about there are concerns that the 2019 election, that it might be marred with violence because the interests, there's going to be governorship election, there's going to be National Assembly election, and there's going to be presidential election. What are those measures that can be put in place to ensure that, you know, we have a free, fair, and credible election?
Yeah, that is where the government comes in, and the media too, because the media, we've been doing wonderfully well, but it should step up, you know, to at least enlighten the people more and more. Let them know what their responsibilities are, you know. Let them know, you know, the import of, you know, selling their votes. For example, they should not be hoodwinked, you know, by any individual, you know, any politician who comes across, you know, with, oh, you take this amount of money, vote for me. I mean, that should even, you know, speak to the kind of individual that person is. If you come forward, you know, it should be about ideas. What have you got to do? What have you got to say? Where have you been? We still keep going back to your antecedents and so on. And what are your intentions? You know, the media should step up, you know, along this line, so that you educate the people, let them know what the stakes are.
I have Ayodele from Ogun State. Hello.
Hello?
Hello.
Hello?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Welcome to Standpoint.
Yeah.
Go ahead with your contribution, please.
All right. My name is Adele.
Go ahead, please.
I'm calling from Ogun State.
Okay.
I contribute to the program.
Yes, please contribute.
Good afternoon, Mr. Adele, my namesake.
All right, sir. Before we and the number of people that participate in electoral contests in Nigeria, as in that come out to vote.
Yeah.
When you look at the number of registered voters, like in Lagos State is said to be, you know, inching to 20 million people.
Absolutely,
by the last
even more than that.
More than that by the last estimation.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, if there's a governorship contest, the winner of the exercise or the people that participated in the entire Lagos State might not be up to 5 million.
Yeah, you know, that speaks to the disillusionment, you know, that has actually entered into our politics, because a lot of people, when they look at what a particular administration did, and then they become disillusioned. They say, oh, what's my interest? But it shouldn't be that way, you know, because, and that is why the last stakeholders meeting that we had at Hackman, you know, the Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the national leader of the APC, informed everybody that this PVC drive, you know, should be re-energized so that people should go and get their PVC. And I keep coming back to the media again, and we on our own are also, you know, encouraging them, telling them that, you know, don't sell your rights. You know, without the PVC, you cannot go anywhere. And again, the last time you spoke about, you know, people not talking about, politicians not talking about infrastructural development and so on.
Yeah.
But you give it to Lagos State that if you look at Lagos State, since the time of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu and his successors, you know, it's been, you know, a fantastic music of, you know, happiness. You know, everybody sings from the same song sheet. Even if you don't like, you know, a particular administration, you will give it to that administration that, well, it's delivering. You know, look at Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the man who brought the template, you know, and changed the landscape, the political landscape in Lagos State. And God has given him the vision. You know, he's a visionary politician, and he has, you know, actually done a great deal. And, you know, Fashola came in, you know, it raised the bar of governance, and people, you know, came out to support, to say, oh, this guy is doing pretty well. You know, look at Akin Ambode. Akin Ambode is also, you know, raising the bar of governance further. People are now knowing that that is what has galvanized some of us to have the interest to even venture into this arena, you know, that we want to be part of the whole thing, so that at least Lagos State cannot go down, it can only go up. You know, that's exactly. And how do we do this? By coming up with more plans, you know, implementable plans of infrastructural development and other, you know, indices of development, so that at the end of the day, everybody will realize that politics can actually be something that we all appreciate.
Your party hinted last week that if they want to choose in their primaries, they might be going for the direct primaries.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are looking at it that the system that they used to use before, indirect primaries, where delegates will converge in a place and they vote and everything, that is still the most tidy system compared to the rowdy arrangement, the direct primary. What are your thoughts about this direct primaries that's just been introduced?
Well, let me quickly tell you that the constitution of the APC, if you look at it, provides for both direct and indirect primaries. You know, it is a constitutional right of the party to choose whichever one it pleases. You know, now they have come out to say that we are going the direct primary way. You know, a lot of people too, a number of people are saying direct primary will be unwieldy, just like you said. You know, a lot of people would have to come out, you know, crowd control and a host of other things. But at the same time, there are people who also criticize the
Indirect primaries.
the indirect
The delegate
primaries
system.
because they are saying that it creates avenue for exchange of money.
Highest
And,
bidder.
So at the end of the day, so, you know, the party looked into it and, you know, thought it fit that, okay, if people are complaining about this, let's try our hands at this one. So both are constitutional anyway.
I have Omotosho from Ogun State. Thank you for joining us, Omotosho. Hello?
From Jokota.
From
I commend the effort of your station for a well good job being done. The area I want to contribute is this. The foundation of this Fourth Republic was laid on a wrong foundation. If you could recall, in 1999, late Gaddafi told us that a cosmetic democracy is an obstacle to development of any nation. The drama that we are seeing as this present democracy is because the foundation was laid on a wrong foundation. Those people who are present most of our democracy are those people who want to rape what they did not vote for. We were the people who chased the military away yesterday, but those people who are parading themselves today, if you see the hierarchy of every political party, it's a military arrangement. To that, if the foundation of any democracy is laid on a foundation, we will continue to see drama. That's why we are seeing drama. The present political parties does not have any political ideology. Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you, Omotosho, for that contribution. And ultimately, finally, Ambassador, the people of Lagos East Senatorial District, what should they be looking at from you?
I have just told you that I'm driven by the passion, you know, to ensure that a number of things are changed, you know. And how do I intend to do this? I want to ensure a lot of empowerment that would at least ameliorate the suffering of our people in the, you know, in my constituency. For example, we have a lot of individuals, you know, young ones who are not employed. We want to engage them. You know, we want to train quite a number of them. We want to also make sure that if there is need for them to develop some skill sets that will stand them in good stead along the line, we want to also ensure that. Again, there's something that is very, very dear to my heart. You know, in Lagos State, when you look at Lagos, Lagos is like the philosopher's lodestone that attracts everybody from all the nooks and crannies of Nigeria. And when people come, they don't leave, they don't go back. Yeah, it's constitutional for them to come to Lagos and stay, but it affects our infrastructure.
Densely populated.
Exactly. The integrity of our infrastructure, you know, declines every day. So to that extent, you know, that is why the special status for Lagos appeals to me as an individual. And incidentally, Oluremi Tinubu, the wife of the Asiwaju, has been doing a wonderful job along this line at the Senate. But when I come in, by God's grace, I would further, you know, give it more fillip, more vigor, more vim, you know, with more vehemence, you know, to ensure that we finally, you know, are able to convince the powers that be, you know, to at least let us have a special status for
Lagos State. I want to thank you, Ambassador Tony Lawal, and a aspirant for Lagos East Senatorial District under the All Progressive Congress in Lagos. And in some days' time, in some weeks' time, you'll be having your primaries. I wish you the best of luck. And that's it on Standpoint today. Join us for the repeat broadcast tomorrow around 7 a.m. and watch us next week for another interesting edition of Standpoint. Enjoy your weekend.
Thank you so very much.